Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond the Saga. Dave Cottingham here with Hannah Burr. Good evening, Hannah.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. We are back talking about those stories beyond the Skywalker films. And in this episode of Beyond the Saga, we are back talking about the High Republic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And it is a book that took me a little while to get through. So that's why.
Same.
Yeah. But you were done way before I was. And that book is Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. And this is the first young adult novel that was put out during phase 1 of the High Republic. So it came out February of 2021. So if you started reading phase 1 of the High Republic, you probably read Light of the Jedi first, like a lot of us did, and then probably got into this book. So Claudia Gray, who is fantastic, been highly acclaimed Star Wars writer for a number of books, Lost Stars, Princess Leia and Princess of Alderaan, Leia, Princess of Alderaan. She also did Master and Apprentice. I mean, books that are just people are loving. Bloodline. I mean, it's like, right? You can just go down the line. So very exciting. She is obviously one of the main writers of the High Republic. She not only did this book, she did numerous books highly involved in phase 2 as well. So this book takes place roughly around the same time as The Light of the Jedi. So there's interconnecting stories here going on with all these novels and the comics. But as always, Hannah, starting off, what was your overall thoughts of this story?
Once I got into it, I couldn't put it down. And it took a while to get into it. And I think the main reason is it's because halfway through the book, we finally see, oh, this is where the story's going. It's not that it's written poorly. It's not that it's boring. It's still exciting. We still meet a very, lovable Padawan. We meet all of these great characters. We're introduced to some new creatures, which are fascinating. And I love the fact that we're expanding more into the dark side of the Force, which is great because we don't have a lot of that currently. But it just felt very disconnected. And I think because it was a little bit of where is this going for the first half of the book, it was a little difficult to get into and a little difficult to keep going. I almost wonder if it would have done better as a part 1 and part 2, because then the thickness of the book isn't as intimidating when you're at a point where you're like, oh my gosh, where is this going? I'm almost halfway through this book. What are we doing? But I still think it's a fun read. You just got to hang in there for the first half.
Yeah, no, very much agreed, because I remember, and I was listening to it. Did you listen to it or read it?
I read up to right before the half point. I read it, and then I was like, if I'm gonna continue going through this, I need to listen to it, because like I'm rereading pages. Like I need to.
Yeah,
I need the audio-ness to help me stay with this.
Yeah, I think at the time when you were getting finished with it, I was starting it, and it, like you, it took a while to get into it. I mean, I found myself even, I was listening to it during, driving or mowing the grass or something, but I found myself like not concentrating because, again, it wasn't drawing me in. So I'd turn it off and listen to something else. So it's like, it just took me a while. But then once I decided, okay, wait a minute, I gotta finish this thing and get into it. And like you said, I think, I guess it was kind of midway. Is it
chapter 15
15
is that
or so? Yeah.
point.
It's like it takes it in a new direction. And it definitely gets a little more interesting there, and I think the book ends really strong.
Yes.
That's kind of my thought process too. Is that I think overall, it probably lacked a little in some spots, but in the end, I mean, I felt like it kind of redeems itself.
It absolutely does. It gets to a point where you can't put it down. You're hooked, and you got to keep reading it. But I also wonder if it's because, this is phase 1 of the High Republic. There's a lot we got to introduce. There's a lot of new people, a lot of new faces. So I almost wonder if the first part of this is to get those introductions out of the way.
Yeah.
Get us to know these characters. And unfortunately, those aren't the most exciting parts sometimes.
Right.
So that could be why I can't put my finger on it, but I would still say read the book because the ending makes it worth it.
Totally agree. So what is any characters kind of stand out to you in this?
For me, definitely. Well, obviously Padawan Reath, our main protagonist of the book, I would say. Yes. I think it's so cool because most of the time when we see Padawans, they're very much of like, oh, cool, a lightsaber, I get to go out and fight. But Padawan Reath is like, cool, library, books, right. I want to study.
Yes.
And the Jedi are like, no, you must go on a journey. And he's like, well, no, I don't want to. Well, you have to. Immediately push. So it's kind of refreshing to see the opposite side of that Jedi one. And the other characters that stand out to me, I would say, are the Drengir.
Yes.
It's a new species that we've never been introduced to before. And and this is when a species is terrifying, is when the Sith are scared of them.
I know. Absolutely.
And we're starting to see more aspects of the dark side of the Force through the Drengir because apparently they're tied to the dark side. Like, it's really fascinating. So I don't know, that was the one character, and then the one group of characters that really stood out to me. But what are your thoughts? Who stood out to you?
Yeah, there were so. If I have a hard time remembering all of them, but if it's hard, like you said, it's what I find with the High Republic right now, because I'm not fully engaged in it, right? I'm just reading it as it comes out and, getting to it. To me, it's hard to follow and get to know all of these characters. Like, I believe, a lot of Jedi was a bigger book, and you really get focused on like Ava Chris, obviously, in that. And then with the comics we've been doing, you got Skier and Trennis, I think is her name.
Yeah, I think that's her name, Trennis.
Yeah. So you kind of get to know them a little bit more deeper, and this one you do get to know Reath Silas a lot. Obviously, we're following him through there. So, but I was trying to think of other characters. Obviously, there's other characters that are involved that we really can't talk about.
I was about to say there are so many. Before this call, you and I are like, all right, what can we talk about?
Yes. Yeah, I know, right?
The list isn't long.
Yeah. But what really did start hooking me is who you said is the Drengir.
Yeah.
Because I remember when they were releasing all of these concept arts, and you would see the Nihil, and you'd be like, oh, okay, that looks like a formidable group, and that's who's going to cause problems with Jedi. But then all of a sudden you started seeing these Drengirs, and I'm like, what is that? And then I believe, and we're going to get to it, but I think the next comic series we need to do for High Republic is Volume 3, and I believe the Drengir are also in that.
Yes.
So, I don't think this is the last, obviously, that we've seen of them. This is kind of their introduction. So, and it might be kind of happening at the same time, because again, these things kind of overlap. But to me, that's what kind of fascinated me, was who they were and the fact that they could communicate and speak. I mean, they're basically sentient beings. But you're right. The fact that the background of with the involvement of the Sith and things like that, because that makes you start thinking, like, like how long have they been? Did they say how long they've been imprisoned? I don't know.
It was a long time, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because that would mean that, I mean, to the Jedi, the Sith don't exist, right? So
yeah,
at this point in time, so they've got to think that this has been like hundreds and hundreds of years. But do we know that for sure, though? Maybe the Sith did just imprison them recently. I don't know.
Maybe we'll find out in the comics.
In the comics, or maybe even, maybe even another book or something like that. But yeah, it was. But that's kind of where I was too. I think the Drengir, to me, the Drengir kind of stole the show in this. That's what really drew me in the most.
Yeah. I think the other part that drew me in the most was we learned more about the Sith Temple that the Jedi Temple was built on top of. We can't really say more than that because it's a spoiler, but
on Coruscant, right?
Yeah, on Coruscant.
Yes.
But that was really cool. I just think any more information we can get about the dark side would be fascinating. Because we know so much about the light side. We know so very little about the dark side.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping High Republic, I guess, opens our eyes a little bit more to the lore of the dark side of the Force. Like we saw it a bit in Shadow of the Sith.
Yeah. Yes.
And we see it here.
And I think it's coming with the Acolyte show.
I hope so. I know you mentioned that you thought maybe that was going to focus more on the dark side of the Force than the light side. Oh, it definitely
is. Yeah,
oh, it is?
Oh, yeah. It's basically, rumor has it, it's basically, because it takes place after this, a little bit after this.
Right.
But it's supposed to be during the High Republic era.
Okay.
So, and it's supposed to focus on the dark side acolytes. And rumor has it that it's whoever the two Siths are at the time. It's roughly that. Rumors again are that it could be Plagueis, and it could be.
Oh, seriously?
Yes, yeah. So could be that whole thing, and then possibly lead into like, Palpatine kind of thing. I don't know, but. Yeah, I think that's, like you just said, I think it's much needed. I think there's a lot of people that are, kind of interested in the obviously they want, which I think both of us want. We want Knights of the Old Republic timeline. Yes,
please. Oh my word. Please. I don't know how much I could beg for this.
I know.
Well, I guess hopefully with the remastered remake of KOTOR coming.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if that ever makes it to our shelves and our gaming consoles. But
also give us Darth Bane. Just give us Darth Bane.
Please. We definitely need Darth Bane. Yes, 100%. So yeah, so that hopefully that does continue to come to us, some of that dark side lore. I don't know how much we're going to get it in High Republic. Now, people listening to this might have read a lot more than us, and they probably made the other answers. But to me, it doesn't seem like it's going in that direction. So I definitely think that there's things that are going to be bad that happen during this time. But if the rumors are true, which I think it is, that phase 2 goes even further back in time. And it doesn't seem like there's really Sith going on there either. So I don't know, just doesn't seem like that's the direction. So they have the Nihil and they have the Drengir now as kind of the antagonists of this main storyline with the Jedi. So it's good, it's good. I'm interested. I want to know more, and this whole first phase is centered around this whole opening of Starlight Beacon, and it's mentioned a ton in this. Obviously, that's what this is centered around as well.
Yes.
But there's the great disaster that happens, and these stories are kind of hitting off of that. So
yeah.
I don't know. Any other thoughts?
I honestly don't really have any. Not anything else that wouldn't reveal a spoiler.
Right.
So basically, if you decide to read this book, which we encourage you to do, just hang in there.
Or listen to it.
Or listen. Sorry, read, listen.
Yes.
Act it out, whatever. Just hang in. Seeing the theater adaptation, film adaptation.
Yeah.
Just hang in there. The end is worth it.
Mm-hmm. And just a reminder to everybody, what we mainly cover on this show is the adult novels and the young adult novels. So, of course, with High Republic, there's young readers and there's middle grade or elementary books. I mean, there's all kinds of books that they're putting out, but we're focusing on the young adults and the adults. So I believe phase 1, there were a couple of each. So we still got to get to those, which I think Rising Storm is the adult novel. Out of the Shadows is another young adult novel that we got to get to. So, so definitely, I think, what I'm trying to figure out, I think, and maybe this, is almost like how many of these books do people need to really read to kind of get the idea of everything that's happening in this series? I'm wondering if you just did the adult novels, would you really kind of grasp what's happening in during this era? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I feel like you have to do both the adult and the young adult, because there was a lot in this book that, especially about the Nihil.
Yes.
That is key. And at least it answers a lot of questions of Into the Light? Light of the Jedi. Yeah. It answers a lot of questions we didn't know needed answering. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So but I mean, that does make you go, oh, do I have to read the children's books as well?
Yeah, I started one of them. I remember I think I started one of them, one of the middle grade ones, and it did seem very young. So and then it did just seem like kind of a side adventure. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
It was.
Like
I don't think
filler episode.
Yes, very well put. I don't think it's anything that really advances the main story too much, or contributes too much, and so I don't. But again, I'm not going to probably read them, and there could be somebody out there that's reading everything and they enjoy all that. Absolutely do that. But for me, I think you're right. I think the main stories are kind of condensed in the adults and young adults, and I think that's definitely what we're going to focus on these episodes.
Yeah. Well, you are listeners / viewers. If there's something that you've seen in those other books and you're like, no, this is key. This is key.
Yes.
Comment below. Let us know.
Let us know. Absolutely. Yeah. So let's see. Where would you rate this one?
3 out of 5.
3 out of 5.
Like the ending, it's so hard.
I'm with you. I think I'm going to go 3 out of 5 as well. Actually,
because the beginning, I was going to say 2 out of 5, but then by the end, I'm like 4 out of 5. So
3 is the average, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's fortunate because I feel like I'm giving 4 and 5s to all her other books.
Oh, absolutely. So
unfortunately for me, and I think sounds like for you, it just didn't reach that level. So, and maybe that's due to the material. Who knows? Because all the other books, you're kind of familiar with the setting or the characters, and
yeah, there's a lot of exposition, and I think she's very creative in how she shares said exposition.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like exposition.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But Yeah, I think it's just it's just the unfortunate circumstance that we know nothing of the High Republic.
Yeah, that's right. Agreed. Okay, that's our discussion about Into the Dark, Phase 1 of the High Republic, the young adult novel from Claudia Gray. Like Hannah said, go check it out, go pick it up and read it, or listen to it on your audiobook apps. Fantastic start, I feel like, to the High Republic. Of course, they're in the middle. They're getting ready. They're starting Phase 2 right now, so we're going to keep talking about it. We've got the comic series we got to wrap up, and we've got some other novels we're going to get into. So look for those coming up shortly. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Hannah, as always.
Thank you. Thank you to our Patreons. Thank you for listening and for watching.
That's exactly right. Thank you. Next up, you're going to get actually a Claudia Gray book, Master and Apprentice. So look for that coming soon. And we'll see you guys then. Take care, everybody. May the Force be with you.